Now we're sitting down with the property owner,
Yep.
going into our consult. Our goals with the consult is get a little bit better understanding of the owner, of the
Mm-hmm.
seller. We want to showcase our knowledge through market data, through comps, through our plan and our process.
Yes.
We want to make sure that the seller has a clear understanding on, how we're getting all of our information
Mm-hmm.
and how we're showing that. And then, at the end of the day, kind of solidifying that strategy, solidifying the plan with them, and then maybe even solidifying the price or at least a range.
Yeah. And if you boil down this portion of it, it's just the same as a buyer consult. We're simply conveying who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it.
Mm, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And like a pro tip, if a seller is kind of glazing over when you're going really in
Mm.
depth on comps or something like that, maybe we go through that part a little bit
Well,
faster.
yeah.
Maybe they're a marketing professional and they want
Gauge
to
your
know about,
audience.
yeah, how you're going to,
Yeah.
showcase the property.
Be
So,
the body language expert here. Really pay attention and throughout it, check in. Are you tracking with me? Any questions so far?
mhm.
The last thing we don't want to do is steamroll through this part of the meeting with not letting us come up for air and them being able to take a breath.
Yes. Or overwhelm anybody,
Yeah,
you know?
completely. So
Yeah.
check in throughout,
Mhm.
gauge what you're getting and dial in accordingly.
Yes. So let's go into the understanding the seller part of
Mm,
it. Again, just like you said with the console, we want to know what is their past experience with real estate, with buying and selling. Have they sold a home before? Do they know what, how showings work? Kind of like
yeah.
overview on those things. We really want to uncover more of the motivation. What has them wanting to sell? What's their goals in this? What do they expect from their advisor?
What are your expectations of me?
Mhm.
Yeah, let's
Yep.
get that on the table now so
Mhm.
I don't let you down without knowing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. What are some factors into their decision?
Mm,
How are they deciding to, make the decision on who they want to work with and who they want to hire to sell their
yeah.
property?
How and when will you decide who you're going to work with?
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so getting that understanding again so you can kind of speak to any of those pain points that they bring up is huge. Now let's go into the, demonstrating the knowledge aspect.
Mhm.
And so, for me that's usually going into comps first
Sure.
once we walk the property together and we're sitting down and we have a better understanding.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what we do. What we do
Exactly.
is tell you how your pricing and comps work and how
Mhm.
that determines your house's value.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And just like in the research, sharing with the owner that you've looked at comps in a couple different lenses because you
Yes.
want to get a really comprehensive view of the property. And so seeing like the, wider neighborhood, everything that's been going on with a particular property type.
Yep.
And then getting into the 3, 3, and 3.
The real specific
Yeah.
portion.
Another pro tip, if you wanted to book a showing for one of the active properties, you guys can tour that after. That's, either a good next step to do right then and there or,
Huge value
yeah,
or follow up if
or
you need
follow up.
to.
Mhm.
Great value add. Not
Mhm.
many agents take the time to go tour and say, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a buyer and see what we would think. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it also lets you gauge maybe how in tune to reality your seller is. Because again, you're making the decision to invest your own money and either take or not take this listing.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interview process for them to interview you
Yeah.
and for you to interview them. Is this somebody that
Right.
I'm gonna work well with?
Yeah. If we're in a home that is clearly nicer and they're saying, oh my gosh, people are going to love our house so much, that might send my alarm bells up a little
Mhm.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So with that, we look at the closed comps to, really dictate kind of that pricing range. With every home that's sold, do we think that our subject property is better, is the same, or is
Mm.
maybe potentially in a lesser
Yep.
condition or would sell for a lesser price than some of those comps?
It
So,
starts painting a picture of what it's going to look and feel like.
mm,
I always love using original list price to close price too,
mm,
because now you have the average of everything that's happened in that neighborhood in the last 6 months or a year, depending on your date range.
mm,
And you can say, hey guys, just on average, so it's not a surprise. Again, that tell them what to expect. So when
yeah.
it happens, they're not. Most people have sold on average, they've gotten 95% of list price.
Mm,
We can, unfortunately, we can kind of expect that somebody may come in around 5% under list price.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Set that expectation so they're not shocked if they get an offer
Yes.
that's at that list
Way
price.
easier to talk about after you've set the tone for it.
Yeah. So then, we kind of come up with a rough range of price. And again, based on their goals and based on their timing that we've been uncovering,
Mm,
it's, we have a range now. If we're not going to sell for a couple months, maybe we keep an eye on this range
Mm,
and, we get a more specific price when we get a little bit closer to listing the property.
yeah, and it would involve some pretty intentional, specific follow-up between now and that time
100%, yeah.
to minimize the risk of you losing this opportunity.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So set up a search for yourself of what's happening in
Yes.
the neighborhood, and keep the property owner
And
updated.
I would literally make sure it's your face they're seeing,
Mm,
a Zoom video, a Zoom with them, or a video of you talking through, "Hey, guys, here's just market update, what's happening in the neighborhood, this, and this." Yeah.
yep, exactly. I love that. So yeah, so we've talked about comps, we've talked about price, we've got a range dialed in. Now let's look at the seller guide and how we're going to position the property.
Mhm.
And so that's more so of the marketing. That's I think that our ideal buyer could be this type of buyer and this type of buyer, just kind of like painting that picture and building that strategy.
And that seller guide is intentionally designed to overwhelm them in a good way with
Yes.
how many arrows are available to them to
Yep.
fire, and it's a ton of marketing.
Mhm.
90% of the seller guide is marketing
Yep.
because we need to show them that no one does more to get your home sold
Yep.
than me and my team do.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And, be very, very comfortable and confident with that seller guide of, let's take staging, for example.
Yes.
So pull up the staging page and then know going in is you as an advisor, are you going to recommend this walking through the house? Do you think
Yeah.
that you should bring in a stager
Does
to
it
do a
need it?
consult? And then kind of know your numbers too on is this something that I'm willing to pay to win over
Mhm.
this listing? Or do I want to highlight this to the seller and let them know that this is important, but for them, be about a $200 cost to
Yeah.
bring out,
Get
a stager
yes.
to come
Give
in.
yourself credit if you're gonna spend it.
Mhm.
Even if you're not gonna do staging because the house doesn't need it, use it as an opportunity to show how you're saving them money.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
and a lot of the marketing pages, we can look in that same exact lens where, if I'm gonna use staging and pay for it, I want credit for it. And I say,
Yes.
guys, this is awesome. I work with a stager. I'm gonna spend the money. It's a few $100. They're gonna come in, get us absolutely dialed and ready. If the margins are too thin and I'm like, I don't have the money to pay for staging,
Mhm.
present it as that option.
Mhm.
And then if it doesn't need it, use it as a compliment. Say, guys, I'm going to save you $200 here because
Mhm.
yes, staging is something we could bring somebody in, but it'd be a waste of your money.
Mhm.
You guys, your house looks fantastic.
Yeah.
The cleaners and the photography are going to show it off. So
Mhm.
let's save you that money.
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
any of the different pieces of marketing, you can pretty much have that same narrative.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I think with that, so we talk through, all demonstrating our knowledge on comps, market data, info sparks, pricing. We've talked through the seller guide
The
of
strategy, the
this,
marketing.
yeah,
Yeah.
marketing, how we're going to position the property. I always, like to kind of end my consults with going over the net sheet.
Mm,
Let's look at the numbers.
yep.
Let's get specific about the numbers with commissions, always put in
Mm,
there, you know, whatever your goal is. I know for me, I like to put, in our kind of new market, this is what I charge. It's
yes.
3.2%.
Yep.
And then I'll include in there that, a buyer's agent is likely going to ask for X, but just so you know, this is, my
Yeah.
charge on that.
And with the NAR lawsuit from a little over a year ago, that kind of changed a lot of that dialogue, and I think it has helped us out as listing agents a ton
Hmm.
because we're only asking for 3.2,
Hmm.
and we're not saying it's 6% because we're proactively offering to the buyer's agent
Hmm.
2.8. Hey guys, my fee is 3.2.
Hmm.
There's a good chance the buyer's going to ask for some sort of compensation too.
Hmm.
We can always negotiate that. It will be your decision.
Yep, exactly. And then just a pro tip on seller net sheets.
Mm,
If you get really granular, let's say they're walking away with $105,000, $795.32. Spelling out every single number makes that feel a lot more tangible to
mm,
people instead of just saying, you can expect if we sell at this price to get about $100,000. It's like, no, let's get granular.
I love
Like,
that.
I see that 32 cents in my bank account,
Yep.
just from getting very, very specific with those numbers.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Be super specific.
Yeah. And then our next video, we'll talk about kind of next steps
Yeah.
and how we're going to solidify the business.